welcome to this week's reading blog. I'm Chanel. This week I have just started reading Green Dot. So this was the book that I grabbed based on its cover from my library that had just come in. And I have noticed that the whole theme of the book is about a young 20, I guess she would be a Gen Zer, and her having an affair with a married man. So the whole subject of the book does seem to be infidelity, but obviously the daily musings and life and discontent and quest for meaning from this 20-something-year-old who's feeling a bit lost and doesn't know what she's doing with her life. I am going to give it a go because even though I don't like infidelity as a subject, at least it's not a romance book, it's a litfic book, so that's different. And I have read litfic books with infidelity that I loved. Case in point, The Harpy. So I'm keeping an open mind. I'm just going to give it a go because I really do like reading a plethora of things, and I don't want to pigeonhole myself by saying, well, I don't like infidelity in general, therefore every book that contains it I'm not going to read, because like I said, I've read amazing litfic infidelity books. So I have started it. I think I'm about 25 pages in. I am liking the writing style. It's very easy to read. Once again, I find a lot of litfic books have very short chapters, and that's just so much easier for me because it's like the pressure to have to read another 20 pages to finish a chapter isn't there. So you can stop at any time, but because of that, you end up reading like at least 20 pages. It's a very bizarre thing. But yes, I'm enjoying it so far. We haven't got to the point where she's met the married man. She's just going through what she was like as a child and the experiences that she had and leading into her teens, and basically just this feeling that she never wanted to work. She had no desire to work, and I can relate. I remember when everyone's asking you in school, what do you want to be when you grow up? And for me, I just wanted to be a mother. I just am such a homebody and a homemaker, and I absolutely just love cooking and cleaning and taking care of other people, but that doesn't pay. In this world, unfortunately, being a mother doesn't pay, being a housewife doesn't pay, being a homebody doesn't pay. So you do have to go out there into the world and find a job. But I also believe that I think almost all of us, none of us really want to work. If we didn't have to work, I don't think anybody really would. I think you'd have your hobbies and you do the things that you enjoy, but I don't think anybody would rock up to an office or to a place of business every day to work if they didn't have to. So I can understand like her feeling about that. Yeah, obviously at the same time, she's quite young, she's quite naive, she's quite self-centered and immature. So there is all of that. And I don't know if that's going to wear on me as a almost 40-year-old woman. But like I said, the writing style is up my alley and it's very easy. So I thought I'll give it, like I said, a minimum 50 pages. But I think these days I do tend to push to 100. I sometimes feel like maybe 50 isn't enough to really get the feel, or some books that maybe are slower paced need those extra 50 pages to really kick off. So I am going to give it 100 pages and then I've decided to just move my DNF to 100 pages because I can read. I'm a fast reader anyway, so it's not like I've invested a significant portion of my life to read 100 pages. Besides that, I'm heading out today. I've got to do a bunch of stuff for my eldest kid. I've got to get school clothes for high school that she's starting next year. I just can't believe it. It's so surreal when your child is a teenager and in high school. It's like, what? Where is the time gone? I feel like I'm still a teenager and in high school. Still have dreams and I'm back in school to this day. So yeah, I'm preparing myself for the monetary blow that's going to be. Why? Tell me why school uniforms are astronomically expensive. A plain pair of like fleece tracksuit pants that you can get for, I'm not joking, $5 from Kmart are $50. Because they're a school uniform. They've got no school insignia on them, just a plain pair. Like it blows my mind. And I'm just like, ooh, that's on today. But anyway, I'll catch up with you guys when I come back. Hey guys, long time no see. Let me tell you about the rest of the books I read this week. It's been a bit of a doozy of a week this week, so I'm just giving you a heads up. So I read Green Dot and I decided to DNF it. So these days I tend to be DNFing around 75 to 120 pages. I'm just been wanting to give the books more of a chance to kick off before casting them aside. So most of the time I DNF now between 75 and 120 pages because I feel if you haven't got me invested by 120, you ain't gonna. So with Green Dot, in the beginning I liked the writing style. It kind of reminded me a bit of Fleabag, but then as it went on, it was just, the main character was just, I guess too unlikable. Like, yes, she doesn't want to work, but she's very condescending. The way that she bonds with people is by gossiping about people they don't like, and that's just not something that I'm into. And we finally got to the point where she met the married man, and I just felt immediately, I'm like, there's not enough else going on with the book for me to enjoy it enough to forget the fact that it's about her trying to get a married man to leave his wife. It's just like the writing was okay in the end. It really wasn't that great. The characters weren't likable. So there's no mystery element either, like, a thriller or anything like that. So I thought, no, this one's just not for me. I decided to DNF it. I then picked up Better Hate Than Never. So this is a sequel. I really liked Two Wrongs Make a Right. Oh boy, this one. So this is an hate to love, but the way that these people just bicker and fight and the animosity was just so insane. It was giving me anxiety, like seeing how these people were just attacking each other was making me feel ill. And it's not justified. Like the reason for them to hate each other was just not justified at all. And it just made me feel sick. And I thought, I actually don't want to see these people become a couple. Like the way that they're treating each other now is horrendous and just ridiculous. Like, grow up. Both of you grow up and be mature and communicate in a healthy way. So I had to put it down. It was just making me feel nauseous. I was like, I love hate to love, enemies to lovers in a fantasy setting. In a contemporary, no, if there's so much disrespect, I'm not going to root for those people. I want to be respected by my paramour. So that just doesn't, tickle my pickle. I then picked up the cookbook, Roast Figs, Sugar Snow, which, how gorgeous is that title? I love the cover of this book. I think it's beautiful. The photography was great, but in this particular cookbook, there's not pictures for every recipe, which is very much a pet peeve of mine. I need to see a visual representation of it so I can make sense of what I'm making. And the recipes themselves were just a bit too complex for me. I just went through them and I thought, I'm not going to make any of these things. They're lovely. I would eat them at a restaurant, but I'm not going to make them at home. So it wasn't a very usable cookbook for me personally. Then I picked up Oldladyvoice, and complete honesty, the cover drew me in. So the blurb very much is telling you what this book is about. It's a translated work. It's a 9-year-old and you're in her head and she's very crass and rude and over the top, and she's living with her seems to be terminally ill mother, and she also spends time with her grandmother, and she's being shipped off to a nun boarding school. She definitely doesn't read as a 9-year-old. So very much sounds like an adult in a child's body. So I didn't particularly love that. I know you've just got to put your logic aside for that. The bits that hit the most were the moments where she was thinking of what life would be like when her mother was no longer around, and those really struck me. It's that realization that the end is going to come, and so you're in the moment, but you're also not in the moment because you're dreading the future, and it's a very difficult place to be with, having had loved ones that had drawn out deaths. I know what it's like to be in that liminal space. So I did like those parts, but in general, this book just, it wasn't for me. I read half of it almost because it's a short book, and I just wasn't particularly entertained, and I just wasn't getting a great feeling. It's just I think these days I tend now to be reading more for the enjoyment factor or for emotion and feeling from a book. I like enjoyment factor more. I want to be happy and kicking my heels or gripped and on the edge of my seat. Sometimes, obviously, some writing is absolutely beautiful and it really captures something that you felt but never been able to put into words. But yeah, this book was just, I could tell it's just gearing up to be a 3.5 star. And another booktuber recently mentioned they would rather have 1 and 2 star books than 3.5 books, because at least the 1 and 2 really brought out emotions in them and they'll be memorable in that way. Oh, I hated that book, it made me feel this. Whereas all these like 3.5-star books are just very forgettable because they don't really make you feel anything. They were okay. And it's like, you're not going to remember okay stuff. But they're, you know, to somebody else, they could be a 5, or to somebody else, they could be a 1. But to you, they're just nothing. So that's why I chose to put that one down. And then I just felt like getting some poetry because, like I said in my last vlog, I just can't, I'm just not picking books that are lighting my fire at the moment, and it's very frustrating. So I thought, let's just get some poetry because it's so digestible and easy to read, and it takes little amount of time. So there's no like sort of regret from reading poetry. So the first one I picked up was Tracy Ryan's Rose Interior. I think I'm just going to start by reading one of the poems. I think that's the best way so you can get a feel of the writing style. I'll show some images up above too so you can see how it's formatted. So we've got Rose Interior, Rainer Maria Rilke. Where is there for this inside and outside? On what kind of ache do we lay such linen? What heavens reflected in this, in the inland lake of these open roses, so insouciant? See how at liberty and loose they are, as if no trembling hand could ever spill them. They can hardly contain themselves, many of them are gorged and overflow from their interior into the days that evermore fully close over till the whole summer becomes a room within a dream. So in this one in particular, I thought they were nice. They were, it's mostly about home and also environment, I would say, are the main themes of this particular collection of poetry. At the end though, it was going into the pandemic, and I don't know, some people like reading about the pandemic. I do not. So it's okay. It's not a poetry book I love, but it's not one that I was a slog to get through. The next one I picked up was More Than These Bones, Blue China Bowl. How many beginnings are held at bay because we refuse to allow an ending to be an ending. This one, I love the mixed media. So I'm a sucker for anything that has pictures and illustrations and interesting formatting. I just like it. It makes something more novel and more riveting. This one is definitely mostly about a romantic relationship. So in the relationship and then after a breakup, those are the main meat of this poetry book. There was a little bit about the grief of losing a parent. Once again, that's the ones that I liked the most personally. This is quite a thick tome. These overall they reminded me of Tumblr poems. And if you know what Tumblr poems are like, then you'll get what I mean. So it's got that kind of feel to it. It's not my preferred style, although I do like other like Tumblr kind of people like Rupi Kaur and stuff. But yeah, another one, like I said, the poems were fine. Nothing that really shook me to my core. It's not one of those poetry books that I was just going to make part of my personality. So yeah, it was okay. So those are all the books for this week. As you can see, the poetry books are probably the best of them. I just wasn't lucky, unfortunately, but that's okay. So next week I'm planning on doing something a bit different. I'm just giving myself a break from picking books, and instead I'm going to read through some of the Goodreads Choice Awards best books, because if they're voted the best, hopefully they're going to be good. Fingers crossed. So next week, that's what I'll be doing. Until next time, stay wild, star child.